All right, so there's a line from the original Men in Black that I think is strangely prolific. I don't know if that's the right word. And it's this line when Will Smith is first putting on the suit and the late Rip Torn is giving a narration, and he says something along the line, I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact phrasing, which normally I'm very good at that, but he said something along the lines of, "You're like a case of deja vu and dismissed just as quickly." And I honestly think that is a great way of describing the Men in Black franchise, is that it's a film series that comes out, we're reminded that it exists, and we're reminded that it exists, and then we forget about it almost immediately. It does not leave much of an impression. And I don't say that with any sense of joy. The first Men in Black film was a lot of fun back in the late 90s. It was, it was fresh. It had an energy to it. It was strangely original. It felt nostalgic because it had kind of a Ghostbusters feel to it, but it was very, very 90s. So at the time, very, very Nitro. It had what was at the time one of the hottest young stars whom we couldn't get enough of, doing, at the top of his game. It was Will Smith at his most Will Smithiest, and a brilliant pairing with one of the most revered character actors of his time in Tommy Lee Jones. And the two of them had an amazing, unexpected chemistry that kept the whole film just bouncing along. It was a fun, the whole movie was wrapped up in that rap song Will Smith did. It was fun, it was bouncy, it was catchy, and ultimately it was a product of its time, and viewed today, not in a bad way, as just a tiny bit dated. But that's not bad. It's not a bad thing to be dated. Being dated does not necessarily, equal bad. It just means that you are very firmly a product of the time and place in which you were created. And Men in Black definitely is. It still holds up. It's still funny. It's still a fun romp. But it definitely was a lightning strikes once kind of thing. Subsequent sequels came out, did nothing to kind of recapture the kind of newness of it. It was all tired and recycled. It was tired and recycled by the time they did the second one. The third one came out much in the same way that Jurassic Park 3 came out, and that is people went, oh, they're still making those? And kind of died on the vine. Some people liked it, most people hated it, but it just kind of went away. And, and again, after each subsequent sequel, we just all kind of went, oh, that existed, and we just went about our business. They'd have reruns on TBS or TNT, but we wouldn't pay them a whole lot of mind. And here we are, 2019, and here we are with Men in Black International. And we find that not a whole lot has changed about this franchise. They try to make it out like everything has changed, and indeed a lot of things have. The original stars are gone. They're trying with now, with Will Smith being the fresh young face back then, they're trying to start with fresh young faces of now, a different type of grizzled character actor in Liam Neeson. So they're trying to, as they say in A Mighty Wind, they're trying to do now then, or then now, which is very retro, but to do then was very nowtro. And I'm not going to say that the movie is terrible. It isn't. But am I going to say that it has a reason to exist? Am I going to say that that it lights new fires of creativity that this series seemed to promise and never quite delivered on? Nope, not going to say any of those things. It is serviceable, you know? And again, the more often I see things like this, the more often I am reminded that sometimes a film works when it works because of when it works, and it just can't do it again. It just can't. And you need to stop trying. So in some ways, this film tries to jettison the status quo as we know it, but in other ways, it's trying to stick to the formula that we know. You have a bright, young agent played by Tessa Thompson, who is a little different than the Will Smith character, Jay, in that she actually seeks out the Men in Black. She finds them. You know, she's not recruited. She actually seeks out their secrets and infiltrates them, and they recruit her that way. But she's still paired up with a more experienced agent in Chris Hemsworth, only this time, instead of it being a grumpy old man with a kids these days kind of thing with the other lead, Chris Hemsworth's character is basically kind of the same Thor he was playing in Ragnarok, a heavy drinking, goofy, seemingly completely irresponsible kind of guy who always just barely escapes being fired because the boss, Liam Neeson, really likes him. Actually, the two characters are nothing alike, but he still carries it with that same kind of drinking frat boy kind of weight. I get the feeling that Chris Hemsworth really likes playing that kind of character. It seems like he really gets a kick out of it. I have a strange feeling that the only reason they made Thor fat and drunk and slovenly in Endgame is because I think Chris Hemsworth really had a fun time playing him. But here's the problem. This is what I would warn Chris Hemsworth about. Because of course Chris Hemsworth watches these. I mean, y'all didn't know that? Yeah, Chris Hemsworth views these. And that is, you need to be careful, buddy, because I honestly think, having seen his body of work, or most of his body of work, since he hit big in Thor, things like Cabin in the Woods, Ghostbusters, Bad Times at the El Royale, this movie, I think acting-wise, he is probably one of the diamonds in the rough of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's got a great deal of acting talent. He can play goofy, he can play imposing and, godlike, and he can play a Charles Manson-esque psycho, and do them all very well. But the problem is, so many of his more recent films, he's been having such a good time doing this slovenly, drunk, frat boy. That is more what he's going to get typecasted as than as Thor. And I think that's a damn shame, because I think Chris Hemsworth is a lot more talented than that. I think he's a lot more talented than that. And I don't want to see him, get stuck in that role because he likes doing it. But again, if you're having a good time doing it and they're paying you the money, then I guess, who the hell am I to tell you not to go through with it? You know what I mean? So yeah, he's okay in this, but the character lacks the charm. It lacks the charm and the charisma of so many of his other roles. Even that villain in Bad Times at the El Royale had a charisma. I call him a Charlie Manson-esque character because he was. He had an evil and scary-ass charisma that just radiated, and this film doesn't have any of that. He doesn't have that charisma. Tessa Thompson is woefully underused. Now, Tessa Thompson is another one, she's a quiet explosion. Because this young lady has demonstrated so much range and so much talent in the few films I've seen her in, from Thor Ragnarok to the Creed series. She can do a lot and play a lot of different characters. And this character is just very, very bland. I mentioned it in the Spider-Man review, and I'll mention it again here. When an actor truly owns a role, it's when you look at it and you say, nobody else in the world could play that part. Now that I've seen them play it, no one else can play it. It is that good. It is theirs. That is what the original Men in Black had. Once you saw it, it's like, no, you couldn't replace Will Smith. You couldn't replace Tommy Lee Jones in that, you know? And the sad thing is you could replace Tessa Thompson with just about any young actor in this film. And again, she's not bad. I want to stress that. She's not bad. It's not unwatchable, but she's bland. And when you have such an explosive talent like she is, and again, quietly explosive, because she's not one of these, look at me, you know, out there girls. She picks smaller roles and quieter roles that she just has so much raw power in. And this film does not give her the opportunity to really use that. She and Hemsworth, who have great chemistry in Ragnarok and the little bit of interaction they have in Endgame, they have next to no chemistry here. And I gotta blame that on the writing, because you clearly have two talented actors who like working together, but there's no spark, there's no chemistry. And I'm not even talking romantic chemistry, I'm just talking about two people being on screen and working off each other. There's nothing. There's one scene in this when they're fixing a bike in the middle of the desert and they have a little back and forth, they're mad at each other, and the little Happy Meal mascot guy, Pawnee, who has the voice of that Indian actor who's in Stuber, whose name I'm going to butcher, so I'm not going to try, you know, they're having an argument, they're using the CGI character as a go-between. We'll tell her I said this, we'll tell him I said this. That's the one scene where I really felt like chemistry was happening. And there was two people having a good time bouncing the lines off of each other. The rest of the time, yeah, no, didn't feel it. Didn't feel it. And I think that leads to the biggest problem of this movie. It's very forced. I don't know what it is about Will Smith at his best. And when I'm talking about at his best, I'm talking at his Will Smithiest. I'm talking about, you know, Independence Day, Men in Black, Fresh Prince. You know, when he is at his Will Smithiest, he has a way of delivering lines that just sound like he's making them up. And you know he's not. Maybe he's ad-libbing a little, but clearly he's following a script. But he just has ways of making it sound like these are things that are coming right out of his mouth and right off of his head. And the same thing when he's working off someone like Tommy Lee Jones. Their energy, it felt all spontaneous and real and natural and right there. This film feels overly scripted. You know, it feels overly scripted with that new brand of comedy that people do, which I actually like when it's done well, the kind of almost conversational, you know, where, you know, people are talking and you're just like, oh, well, you know, that's what you say, but I guess we're not doing, you know, that Chris Pratt, Guardians of the Galaxy style humor. But that humor only works in certain instances. One, it's harder to write, and two, it only works with certain actors in certain roles. Hell, Chris Pratt can't even recreate it well enough in the Jurassic World movies. He can't do a Star-Lord ripoff. He's a bad Star-Lord ripoff. And that's what a lot of this comedy is. It's a lot less, you know, Will Smith kind of one-liners, and a lot more, well, you said that, but I didn't say that, you know, well, I don't know who said that, but that's not what I said. Well, maybe you said it weird, you know, that kind of thing. And again, it all just feels overly scripted. Another problem, I feel like I'm just railing on films recently, and it's not, again, I'm not, it's always interesting with films that you liked but didn't love. It's always very interesting to work with films like those in a review, because it seems like there's more to talk about, you know? So anyway, another problem with this film is the story, and this is trouble with the other two Men in Black sequels, I felt. The story is all over the fucking place. It's just everywhere. First Men in Black, I think, and again, owing to its very bizarre setup, straightforward storyline. Rookie cop, old cop, chasing down a bad guy. Done. You know, yes, the details got a little weird. He's looking for a galaxy that's hanging on the neck of a cat, and, you know, the bad guy's a bug and all that. That's all in the details. But the basic storyline is young cop, new cop, young cop, old cop, chase down a bad guy. Buddy comedy. That's it. This film, the plot is young hotshot cop who was once good, but people are looking down on now, is teamed with a young cop who has joined the force out of nowhere. They are tasked with shit. They see how hard it is to even remember the plot. You know, even a day later, they are tasked with protecting a diplomat who is party friends with the reckless cop. Diplomat gets killed by two bad guys who are seemingly after him for a MacGuffin he's holding. Passes the MacGuffin on to the new cop. Tells them there is corruption inside the police force. Good cop, hotshot cop, and new cop go and try to find out where the weapon is located. Weapon gets stolen, taken to an arms dealer who used to be in a romantic relationship with hotshot cop, but they broke up. So there's that diversion. We get the weapon back. Turns out the person we thought was the leak in the police department is not the leak in the police department, and it all links back to what, you know, see, it's all over the fucking place. And that was literally me trying to just put it in the simplest of terms as to what was going on in this story. You know, first one, young cop, old cop, chasing down a bad guy who's stolen an important gem. Done. You know? And I honestly think that's a problem that the other two films ran into, is they tried to get way too complicated with the mythology. They tried to get way too complicated with the sci-fi of it, and it just blew up in their face. I think simple premise is all this film needed. So yeah, I've been railing on this film for a while, but there's, you know, again, with these middle of the road pictures, there's a lot to chat about. So I'm trying to think, you know, was there anything that I did like about this movie? I didn't hate it. I think Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson are good. I think they're good actors, so of course they pull out a good role in this. I think Liam Neeson had a neat presence. I thought the little guy, Pawnee, you know, the new CGI mascot character that you can put in a Happy Meal, you know, that character comes on and just flashes over your head. That's what he's there for. He's not bad. He's not as annoying as you would suspect a character like that would be, but he's pretty useless, all things considered. But it's a fun role. He has some good lines. Again, I can't even think of I can think of like 2 lines I kind of chuckled at. You know, that's it. I can't think of any, you know, there were no lines that I just went, ha, ha, ha. You know, even now thinking of the original Men in Black, I'm like, oh, that's a funny line. Oh, that's really funny. And so I'm like, I guess that was kind of funny. So this movie works as I think exactly what, not exactly what it was planned to be, but I think exactly what it became. It's a early summer distraction. It's there. It doesn't really hurt anybody, but it doesn't do anybody a whole lot of good either. It's just kind of there. So let's just wrap this up. So final grade for Men in Black International. I'm going with a C. I gotta go C-. I wanted to try to be nice and say a C+, but I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. A C-. But you know, you can do a lot worse this summer. I've shown that. You know, you can do a whole lot worse. And, you know, I give them credit for trying to do what I think the original sequels should have done, and that is try to expand the world of the Men in Black. But I have a feeling it is a definite case of it's too little, too late. lightning struck. It's not going to strike there again. And I really think that instead of trying to reinvigorate a series that is now 15, 20 years old, maybe it'd be nice to pour some of that time, energy, and star power into, that screenplay that comes along that's kind of off, kind of weird, but strangely appealing. The same chance they took with the original Men in Black. Instead of trying to recreate Men in Black, why don't you try to recreate Men in Black? Just a thought. But anyway, so that's it. Thanks for joining me. As you can see, I've got the cool car today. We've also, our heat wave has finally broke. So we actually have, this is mostly cloud coverage here. This isn't smoke, so that's nice. So we can breathe, it's a little cooler. So yay that. I don't know if I'm doing another one of these before I leave. I might, I don't know. But I will see, and you'll see, but all these will be up, all at the same time. So anyway, so at any rate, hope everyone is doing well. Whoa, bouncy, look at that. Look at that. That's driving in Alaska, folks. That is driving in Alaska. Potholes, baby. It's a driving simulator. Anyway, so now that you're all motion sick from that, as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.